Time to introduce a couple of superstar tools in Sculptris, things that you will use all the time. As you've probably noticed, sometimes, either through a shaky hand or a brushstroke that wasn't in quite the right spot, you get a bit of an uneven surface on your model. If you have rough areas or shapes that have gotten a little too pronounced, the Smooth tool is going to be your very great friend. The Smooth tool can be found in the Tools palette and has an icon that kind of looks like a blob of clay. The function of this tool is to relax the surface of your model. It will blur details and average out bumps or dips. Kind of behaves like wetting your finger or a sponge and running it over clay in real life. Let's see what it does. If I select the Smooth tool and a medium brush and strength, I can then click and drag over rough spots to clean them up. Now you can overdo it with the Smooth tool. Because its function is to relax the surface, it can end up swallowing details that you didn't want to lose. If that happens, undo the overdone smoothing by using Command Z or Control Z, and then turn down the brush size and or the strength and try again. Now, even if you personally are not usually a fan of keyboard shortcuts, it's worth learning the one for the Smooth tool. It's the letter B. Think about it as B for busting bumps. The reason it's worth learning the keyboard shortcut is that you will use the Smooth tool a lot. If you're not doing a lot of smoothing in one particular moment, but just a touch here and there between inflating or drawing or creating creases, there's an even handier trick than the keyboard shortcut. You can actually use the Smooth tool while another tool is active without actually switching over. All you need to do is hold the Shift key and you'll temporarily enter smooth mode. So let's try it out. I'm going to make the Draw tool active, but if I want to temporarily jump into smooth and even out any shaky spots, all I have to do is hit that Shift key and drag over my model. Even though the Draw tool is highlighted in the Tools palette, Shift puts me into smooth mode, so the Smooth tool works to even out the surface. If I release and click drag again, I'm back to the Draw tool. The only thing about using the Smooth tool this way as opposed to choosing the tool in the Tool palette is that the brush and strength will be what they were for the currently selected tool. So if I want to alter those without changing what the current tool is set to, I need to enter smooth mode by clicking the icon or hitting B on the keyboard, and then adjust my brush and strength there. By the way, lazy and invert modes are clickable within the Smooth tool. Invert doesn't have any effect at all so far as I can tell, but lazy does the same thing that it does for other tools. Namely, it reduces shake and attempts to even out the path of your cursor. Other than accidentally overdoing it and removing details that you wanted to keep, there is one thing to watch out for with the Smooth tool. So let's say we decide we want to turn our dolphin into a narwhal. So we add a horn. I'm going to select the Grab tool and pull out that shape. And then maybe I go back and work on some other things, but down the line, perhaps after we can no longer use Control Z or Command Z to get rid of the horn, I decide that I'm really more of a dolphin person after all, and I want to get that horn gone. Now you might think, okay, just go ahead and smooth it out. And if I do that, you can see that the horn does appear to shrink back into the head. But under the hood, there's a bit of a problem. The sculpting tools in Sculptris work by adding triangles to the mesh, which is the digital sculpting surface. More triangles means a finer mesh and therefore more detail. Think of it like sculpting out of thin wire versus thick. The thin wire is easier to bend and shape exactly how you want it, even capturing tiny details, but it is perhaps less structurally sound than the thick wire. Now all this is under the hood. You might remember from one of our Sculptris Basics videos that we don't see the mesh unless we turn on Wireframe, which is the button with the W icon in our tool palette. Let's do that. If I turn on Wireframe after smoothing out the horn, you will see there is now a dense nest of smaller triangles on the forehead where the horn was. The Smooth tool has not gotten rid of the horn altogether. Instead, it shrunk it, leaving all the small triangles of the horn squished together on the surface of the forehead. Structurally, this is not ideal, but fortunately there's another tool that can help, the Reduce tool. The Reduce tool has the opposite effect of the other tools we've been using in Sculptris in that it removes triangles to reduce the amount of detail rather than adding triangles to create more detail. The Reduce tool has an icon in the tool palette that looks like a circle with a wavy line in it. You can also select it using the keyboard shortcut Y. When you select the Reduce tool, it will automatically turn on wireframe mode so you can see the changes being made in the mesh. Let me zoom in so you can see more clearly what's happening when I click and drag this brush. As I move the cursor, the mesh of triangles gets less dense. Practically speaking, what you're doing is reducing detail by making your mesh coarser instead of what happens with a smooth tool, which is just reducing detail by smoothing things together. At the end of the day, though, we want a mesh that is just dense enough to hold the detail we need. So the reduce tool can be a great way to get rid of unnecessary noise. You can also use invert with the reduce tool, and that will add triangle density rather than reducing it. Okay, now that we've reduced that mesh, we can go back to the smooth tool and run it over again to even things out with a more respectable number of triangles now. It's just good practice to use the reduce tool from time to time to remove triangles in areas where there are more than there are needed for the amount of detail. This is especially true if a model looks kind of crinkled or torn. That can happen when a dense mesh of triangles gets all crunched together. All in all, the smooth tool and the reduce tool together are a powerful combination for cleaning up roughness and unwanted details and forms. Okay, you are now familiar with the essential sculpting tools in Sculptris. We still have a number of other things to go over with the program, but that is it for this week. Feel free to play with them a little. Use them in combination, the grab tool to pull out forms, the inflate or draw tools to build up or carve into your surface, the flatten tool to make planes, and the crease and pinch tools to add details. Spend a little time refining your dolphin model so it looks good for you. In addition, make sure you go into BB Learn and read the project guidelines for your third and final project in Sculpture 1. You will be coming up with an idea for that and submitting a proposal by Sunday. Once you have finished, save your file, but then also export it as a .obj. You will end up submitting that this week for homework. Let me know if you have questions. Otherwise, happy digital sculpting!